You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tatah. The Africa we want. Unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa. So very soon we'll be live. Just a minute. Let's see what the United Kingdoms of Africa has to tell us.
After centuries of misguidance caused by slavery, colonization, lack of awareness of our history, and institutional disinformation, a new Africa is on the move, determined and getting organized. Afrika tuko pamoja. Welcome to the United Kingdoms of Great Africa. The United Kingdoms of Great Africa is the cradle of the alliance movement of all African intelligences around a common ideal, the unity and development of a strong, conquering and completely dedogmatized Africa through the channel of a strong organization called the Africa We Want Global. You are an African, Afro-descendant, researcher, historian, scientist, or simply an NGO. You want to be part of this great historical march towards the total freedom of an uninhibited Africa? Visit our website www.africawewantglobal.org. Register and discover the range of our platforms for change. AfricaWeWantGlobal.org. Join the kingdom, be part of it. An initiative of Dr. Susan Tatah.
So beautiful. Good evening, everyone. And yes, tonight is or afternoon out there. I know I say tonight because me here in the studio is almost around 10:30 here out. So I hope all of us are doing fine out there, and pretty more cold out here. I don't know what your situation is out there. So tonight we have our brother Imhotep Asar. Asar is here to share with us another perspective about the One Africa Conference. But before that, this is an incredible brother that has been doing a lot of work out there. I don't even know how to describe him. I hope all of you are getting connected because it's been some days that we've been off, trying to put some stuff together. I've been preparing also to meet him in person at this One Africa conference. So there's just a lot going on, and the heat is on everywhere. We hear, oh, it's Detroit, Michigan, oh, the One Africa conference. I mean, I really want to put a shout out to all of you that have been sharing that information, and because the noise is really getting louder. We cannot wait to meet in Detroit to actually put a foundation and a structure to the Africa that we want. For the first time, we're connecting. For the first time, we're speaking. For the first time, we're uniting. For the first time, we're actually even going further than what people would have thought that we should have been doing right now. Everyone was thinking, oh, it's a step-by-step thing. And but you can see it doesn't, I don't even think the 50-year plan that people actually like saying, oh, it takes us 50 years because we have to think 50 years. I mean, we're Africans. We just get up, do it. Like you see, Brother Answer is a computer specialist, a researcher, a founder, an author. I mean, everything. I don't even know what an African cannot do. Anything you just said, your eyes, your ears, and your mouth speak it. It just works. So, yes, that's who we are. And I want to salute all of you. It's been a while. I think it's been almost a week. A week. And I saw a lot of comments. People were like, is she going on vacation? No, I did not. I'm just preparing to go out there in Detroit, Michigan, and meet my brothers and sisters that we've been disconnected for 400, almost 500 years. Can you imagine the excitement? So why would I come and sit here and we be talking? You know, I'm just already there. I'm already there. I just want to like even shift it ahead. Okay. So yes, thank you. I hope all of you have your water to drink, and let's mind our African business, because this conversation today is going to be quite interesting. We want to first of all know who Brother Asa is, what he's been doing, and what are his projects, because this is a big visionary. And you know what? He's also going to be one of the keynote speaker on the One Africa conference. And you know they don't just speak, they go for the there. Right. So, brother, welcome to the first time on the Pan African Daily. It's a warm, warm day because it's only you that could have maybe put us on the stream tonight, because we were already like, let's just go to one conference and then come back and then we talk about the One Africa. So, how are you doing, my brother?
I am doing well. I am doing well. And I just want to say, firstly, that it is an honor to be on your platform. You have had many giants in our midst, and I am privileged to be one of those panelists in that long line. And just the work that you're doing, it is very fascinating. And I'm excited about being here, and I'm excited about your platform, and excited about actually meeting you in Detroit on April the 30th. So I look forward to our conversation.
I don't know. Sometimes I used to say God gave the African everything. Bro, is that your natural voice, or did you do something to it?
No, that's my natural voice.
Wow. I mean, it's like, I don't know, the roaring, like every other vibration is in that voice. I mean, this is so, you don't get this anywhere. You don't hear this, we have some tiny voices, but when the lion roars, the kings are rising, and everybody watch out right now. So yes, bro, it's gonna be a wonderful time to be in Michigan to meet you all. And what are you looking at? What is the noise out there? Because maybe it's just because I'm in and my head in, my spirit is in, that I hear everything I see now is just the conference. Do you also have that impression that mm, people are anticipating and waiting for that day?
Yes. All I hear is excitement about the idea of the conference itself, what it represents, as well as the people who are coming to share information, but also just meeting just the people themselves, because it's been a while as a result of the pandemic that these types of conferences hasn't been really going on for about 2 years now. So the community has only been seeing each other in this virtual space, and so there's excitement on all types of levels, and so I look forward to meeting some people who I've only met virtually, uh, in person, who will be there. So it's going to be a good weekend, and I look forward to it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, a couple of people are just like, yes, COVID came, COVID is gone, or it will go. And for some people, people that are not Africans, let me say the Caucasians, for them, it was quite like, it's okay. I mean, we've been used to, being not the people to people kind of persons. But for us, Africa, it has been a really kind of a pain, because we connect face to face, spiritually, but also physically on a very high note. So I can understand if you say, the weight is actually on for 2 years, or even 2 years plus. For us, that's really something that is unheard of, right? And yeah, so can you just describe Michigan? Are you from Michigan, or from outskirts, or?
No, I'm actually Well, where I'm from is very nuanced in the sense that I was born in a town called Jacksonville, Florida. But
Okay.
because both of my parents were in the Navy, especially in my early years, I lived with different relatives. So I lived in New York, I lived in New Orleans, which is in Louisiana, um, and then we finally moved to Texas. So I spent most of my younger years in Texas, in two cities, in Houston, Texas, and in San Antonio, Texas. And so, after college, I left Texas and went to Philadelphia, and that's where I've been, ever since. So I'm mainly in Philadelphia. But as far as Detroit is concerned, I really can't give an honest personal assessment because I've been to Detroit. However, I've never left the airport. So I would only come to Detroit as a layover to go to some other place. So this will be my first time in Detroit, stepping outside of the airport and then go. So, but I have friends and family there, so I get a good sense of the layout and the culture and things down there. But as far as Detroit is concerned, no. And Detroit is far from Philly. Uh, about an 8-hour drive. If I understand correctly. But
8 hours. Okay.
yeah, and that's light. You could travel 8 hours inside of Texas easily. I know a lot of people like on the East Coast because the states are so smaller. That the states are smaller and close together, so you can go to 2 or 3 states in that same amount of time. But in Texas, a good 5 to 8 hours is going from one city to another city, on different sides of the state. So, you know, that drive isn't too bad for someone from down south.
Wonderful. So it's like I'll be leaving Europe and you leaving another city in America, and we'll be arriving at the same time.
Indeed. Yeah,
That's how it sounds like. Or somebody living here and going to Africa. We're gonna be
indeed.
getting at the same time. Anyway, so yes, you're joining us, you're watching us from the continent, from all the parts of the world. This conference is open to everyone. We're going to be connected digitally as well as face to face. And we just, I don't know how I want to say it again. It is an opportunity for every one of us. So you can get your ticket and you're still going to be in that conference. Okay. So you already heard all the keynote speakers, and today we have him. Tomorrow we anticipate to get Professor James Small if everything works well, but I cannot assure that. Yes, so get your ticket. I'm very happy for those who reach out to me this evening and like bought their tickets and actually told me my tickets are ready. I can't wait to be there for us to meet. So we're calling on all of you that this is the last minute ticket. I mean, we're talking about an event that is taking place next week, Saturday. Oh, yes. And so make sure that you're ready, because this is the first time in history that we're actually going to be sharing this experience. I don't even really know what we actually will be talking about, and just connecting already is too much for us to meet and then putting in that work out there for what we see or envisage One Africa to be about. So, bro, I know we're going to talk a lot about this conference today, and we keep reminding people to get their tickets virtually. It's going to be broadcasted all around. I already see the whole media team. How big is it? Are you going to be broadcasting as well? Because you also are one of that, or you own a
I won't be broadcasting. However, I will be filming, just bits and parts, and I'm gonna compile a video together of, you know, some brief interviews of the audience, people who are participating, and I'm going to put together just a brief video, you know, 5 to 10 minute video about the conference or the experience of the conference itself. So you'll see me, you know, kind of walking around with the camera and lighting the microphone, interviewing some people, but I won't be streaming. But there will be others there that will be podcasting that weekend, and then of course those who are actually part of the streaming process for Tatah. And so yeah, that'll be, you'll see me doing that outside of conversing with the family and taking notes, and you know, for people's talk and the like.
Wow. Everybody's just like looking like, oh, but who is the guest on the show? I said, it's Brother Asar Imhotep. Can you tell us more about, I mean, your biography is so huge. I can't even start to read. I just picked out the words and I like, he's a leader, he's a champion, he's an activist, he's a Pan-African, he's a researcher, he's an author, he's a creator, he's a founder, he's everything that takes to make a leader, because we have to touch all the points and parts and gain experience here to really actually stand up to say, yes, I've had enough experience. I'm still learning. All of us, nobody really actually knows, but I mean, this is what I'm bringing to the table for us to sit together and build the Africa that we all anticipate or wish our children and for ourselves as well. So tell us everything about you, and before I meet you in person, but for the audience that will be watching you now, what have you been doing? What are your experiences? What are your challenges? What is the knowledge about Egyptology and all these centers that you've created? How long did it take you? What was the purpose? What actually motivated you? Like, yes, I have to stand up. I'm the voice. I'm the chosen one, and I'm taking the front lead. What is it? Tell us.
Well, I don't necessarily know about the latter part of the comment, but as I stated earlier, you know, born in Florida, pretty much raised in between Louisiana and Texas, and you know, my adult years on the East Coast in Philly. And you know, while I was in undergrad, I was in for computer information systems, and I minored in African studies, African and African American studies. And you know, how I got to the Egyptology thing, I went to 2 schools initially. So the first school I went to was Southwest Texas State University in San Marcos. And then after my second year, I transferred to the University of Houston. Now, this is significant primarily for this reason. When I went to Southwest Texas State University, there was no African studies or African American studies programs or departments. So there was no classes that you could take, you know, to learn more about our history and things. So, you know, we had to create organizations and do self-study. And, you know, it was this one organization that was created called Kumasi. And Kumasi, you know, we would study throughout the week. The meetings were held on Wednesday. So we would study throughout the week, and then somebody was assigned to do a brief presentation at the beginning of each meeting about what they learned during the week. And then, you know, we would have some conversation, and then we would have some new assignments and some new readings or continued readings, of like we were reading like a text with several chapters, right? And so when I transferred to the University of Houston, they had a Black Studies program. Now, keep in mind, when I first got there, my focus was in accounting, right? So that was the degree I was pursuing. And so while I was at Southwest Texas State University, they did not require you to have a minor as a requirement for graduation. However, when I got to the University of Houston, you were required to get a minor. Now, what's interesting is when I got there, they gave you a choice of, minors. And so it had to deal, since I was in the School of Business, it had to deal with kind of world studies. And so, you could take Asian studies, you can take Latin American studies, or you could take African studies. And I saw the African part, but I didn't realize like that was a separate, minor. And so I went to the African American Studies program and started taking the classes there. So I took 12 hours of those classes, and then come to find out that none of them counted because I was supposed to take African studies, continental African studies. So me thinking they're all the same. So I had to go and take an additional 12 hours, for African studies. And then I decided at last minute, I want to change my major because all I do is code and deal with computer stuff. So I'm like, I'm not going to be an accountant. I already see this. This is too boring. So I switched, went into computer information systems, and I'm currently continuing in computer science for the master's level. But when I switched over to CIS, it also did not require for you to have a minor. So, ultimately, I mean, it wasn't money wasted, but it extended my stay, at the university. But this is all significant and important for the fact that during that time in one of the African American Studies courses, because I had already been introduced now to Egypt and, much of the general history and culture, there was a professor, Dr. Asa Hilliard III, who, is a world-renowned, child educational psychologist, who passed away, ironically, in Egypt a number of years ago, and African-American man. And he came to a school titled, Texas Southern University, right across the street from the University of Houston. And at TSU, he did a conference. He did a presentation on African in the Word, like the importance of speech and the dynamics of speech intertwined with the spirituality and the like. And in that conversation, he introduced me, well, I guess to the audience in general, a text by Dr. Kimbwadinde Kiabunseki Fukiao out of the Congo. And the title of the text was African Cosmology of the Bantu Congo. And when I was looking at his presentation, like a lot of that stuff just resonated with me. And I went in online to order the book. And so once I received the book, I started looking throughout the text and reading it. And it's one of my favorite books to this day. And I started noticing some cultural correspondences with ancient Egypt. And note that this was not the focus of his book. He's only talking about his culture, his language, and the cosmology of the Bakongo people in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So to make these connections, to see these connections, I was like, there's something here, there's something more. And throughout the years subsequent, I started gaining skills, learning about how to do historical comparative linguistics, how to, reading materials on African spirituality, culture, language, psychology. And as a result, I I was able to now more formally and systematically make these connections between ancient Egypt and so-called Bantu language speakers. And, you know, Bantu languages are a linguistic group that expands from uh, Cameroon all the way to Somalia, you know, Great Lakes region, all the way to South Africa. So when I started making these connections in terms of the rituals, in terms of um, the just the overall psychology, the rites of passage, clothing, the spirituality and language, it it the evidence inferred that the ancient Egyptians and the Bantu speakers have a common ancestral origin. And that's the only logical explanation given the amount of evidence that we've been able to accumulate over the years. So many people may know me primarily from those discourses and writings regarding these relationships between um, ancient Egypt, West Africa, Central Africa, you know, Southern Africa, it amongst a group of people that they try to argue have no relation to the group. Now, every group is significant and unique amongst themselves, but given the colonial history, there have been some other ideas that were introduced into Africa. And unfortunately, many African communities did not have writing. So how are you able to tell uh, in a very scientific way, you know, what elements are homegrown and then what elements were introduced from the outside? You know, given that a lot of the records now, you know, emerge as a result of the colonial experience. So that's why the ancient Egyptian data becomes very important, because now it anchors you in time before colonialism. So when you're able to establish those types of connections, you know what was ancestral and what was filtered and remained in the daughter groups from the parent culture that existed at some unknown time, you know, in the past. So in summary, you know, my works have been kind of focused on the deep psychological and cultural linkage between African people, and I use a variety of different tools to essentially make those arguments. And it's especially good for those of us who are in the diaspora, because you know there's retentions that we have, but we may not understand the full cultural nuance to why we do those things, why we speak this way, you know, and the like. So I hope that answers your question in a nutshell.
Absolutely. Very correct. Even us on the continent is the same thing. That it took me a while to understand that. For instance, the people of Ivory Coast, they walk slowly. You know, they take their time. They're slow. Everything. And I but I had that experience and I was like, but why is she just slow? I mean, a sister that I know, and they said, no, it's in their nature. I said, what do you mean it's in their nature? And so even though we just all of us, the really cultural differences amongst us that you can actually tell. And like they take their time, even the way they talk, even the way, you know, they're really extra slow than we already know we are slow. I mean, as compared to the functional, the linear people, we the multi-actives, we know actually we're slow, but they actually is some other cultures among us that are slow or even faster as well. So, but what is the unique characteristics that you say? For instance, now we're talking about the one Africa, and what would actually blend us? What is it that you see like similarities in the culture for all of us? It means we're still diverse, even on the continent, isn't it?
Indeed. Well, there's several factors, and I'm reminded of an author out of South Africa, the late Jordan Ngobani, and he was a Zulu author, who lived during the time of apartheid. In 1979, he wrote a book titled "The Conflict of Minds," and he's essentially talking about the cultural differences and the psychological differences between the European and the South African, and how this was the source of the conflicts. And what he articulates as one of this is this kind of perspective or this bias towards the human, the person, the being human. And like, he was exiled because of his writing. Well, during his exile, he went to West Africa, I believe in Ghana and Nigeria. And he was stumped because he thought the attitudes toward the person, these underlying cultural nuances that he had amongst his people, the Amazulu, were unique to him and his group. But once he went into West Africa for the first time, he saw the same symmetry. There's expressive differences, but the underlying spirit, is the same in terms of their approach to music, their approach to ancestor veneration, the mask cult, the way of dress, the use of proverbs, for example, as teaching modalities, the earthiness of the artwork, their perspective in the value of environment, so to speak. And even, of course, because these are related languages, if you were to study them deeply, you will find that y'all speak the same words. They just sound different as a result of, migrations from, of course, evolution through time and migrations and dialects forming, over time, and to the point where they become different languages. But when you put them side by side and you note the pattern in the words and the speech, you like, oh wow, these are the same words. And so so even in language, even though it sounds different, you're using the same words for these very fundamental concepts of life, right? So, for example, in ancient Kemet, there is a foundational principle that, in our Egyptology speak, we say Ma'at, right?
Yes.
But it's not really pronounced Ma'at because the ancient Egyptians did not write out their vowels. And Ma'at consists of 4 consonants in sequence. And so their script, the hieroglyphic Seshmet script is just all consonants. And so, but when you do the analysis, and I'll show this at the one Africa conference, the word Ma'at survives in Kikongo as the word Inungu. Now of course, we're saying it wrong as far as the ancient Egyptians, but Ma'at and Inungu do not sound alike, right? And this is word for truth, justification, perfection, and the like. But it sounds totally different than in the Bassa language in Cameroon, for the word boka. It's the same word. These words don't sound alike. But if you understand historical comparative linguistics and know how to map each sound to each sound, you'll find that these words are alike. So I'm pretty sure you've heard people from the diaspora and amongst the Yoruba, of course, say the word ashe, right? The word ashe, meaning a command, power, the ability to make things happen and to multiply and to flourish, right? So, but it's found in ancient Egypt as the word wester, meaning power means all the same thing. So the Yoruba language, they've dropped a few sounds. And so now all we say is ashe instead of the whole Wasiri, and
Mm-hmm.
that you find in the ancient Egyptian. And so, when it comes to, for example, mummification, words for king, words for heart, the the sitting, like when you go to places like Ghana, when they sit the
Mm-hmm.
king, they sit him 3 times on the stool.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find the same rituals in Central Africa, and the the relationship where there are leopards and panthers, like the leopard skins that you'll see all in places like Benin, Togo, the Congo, Kenya, South Africa, amongst the Kosa, the Kosa and the Zulu, etc. Even in ancient Egypt, like these societies, these use of these patterns or whatnot, and the idea, like in places like Central Africa, that the leopard is one's double,
Mm-hmm.
one's spirit double. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you find the
Okay.
same thing in ancient Kemet, and so there's just many different nuances. I hear about these Jollof wars. You know, between Nigerians, um, the Akan and the Shanti, folks, and the people of Wolof in Senegal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what I mean by the Jollof is Jollof rice. So not a real war,
Mm-hmm.
but who has the better, rice dish? It survives here in the United States. We call it jambalaya. We've added some other things down in the places like New Orleans. So like our taste in food in terms of spices and the like, and what we do in terms of soups and sopping, with certain things like what people would do with fufu and the like, and there's it's just kind of universal, and then of course some things are the result of trade and migration. So you'll see a lot of cowrie shells, for example, in West Africa, and you see that it is being used in all types of artwork and jewelry or whatnot, but cowrie shells come from the eastern coast of Africa. It was a
Mm-hmm.
result of trade in Egypt that happened in Western Africa, that you get. This is why we got the cowrie shell, and so everybody, because they have a similar culture, said this is good for art, and you see it on all the artwork, and not just as a form of currency, or even amongst like the Yoruba folks who use it for divination, you know. And we still use it as divination in the diaspora, for those of us who have either maintained or have adopted the spiritual tradition coming out of Nigeria. So there's many things, hairstyles, the braiding techniques, and the geometry, you know, uh, architecture, in terms of house design, and the art of burying one's ancestors under the home, and even in like places like in the Dogon, how they divide their societies as upper and lower, and how they have the ancestral shrines towards the feet, because they see conceptually the society as a human being. So there's a head, there's arms, and then there's the feet, and always at the feet is the ancestral shrine. But it makes sense because of the tradition of everyone, not everyone, but many societies burying their ancestors in under the house. So they're always at the feet,
Mm-hmm.
of one. So you see that expressed, but it's the same thing in ancient Egypt. That's why all the pyramid tombs and everything are what we call the north, but which was technically their south, because they had a kind of reverse orientation. Their north was our south. When we think about Africa today, so they dealing with the flow of the river, and so
Mm-hmm.
upstream was in of course in Ethiopia and in Congo, and then it flowed out into the Mediterranean. But that was their south. If you find most of the pyramids and the tombs in that same orientation, and so there's many different ways that we all connect. Um, just little nuances that, and especially with the women in terms of the, their expressions and the types of jewelry and stuff that they wear, even not being connected. It's the scent of life should be lived like art, that you find these common expressions among the people. So um, I could think of others, but uh, for the sake of time.
I mean, I like this topic because I mean, this is really the in depth of what we're talking about when we talk about our culture. Most
Mm,
of us, actually, I think Professor James mentioned it, that we have to start going into, that deeper knowledge of understand when we say what is it when we say the African culture.
mm,
And most of us, like, all right, we wear the print coming down from Holland or all that, and we really like. But if you look at even the cloth, like you said, the fabrics or the carvings, you could actually see the stories of everything that our ancestors were doing. They wrote everything. Now when the European came and said we were just stupid people, like we were running in the bush, like we never had anything, and you just go back to the original fabrics and they still do it today. You could
mm,
see everything was a symbol of something, everything was a story, everything was a community. If you look at the carvings, the way the round, the circular ones, even like the ones that the fonts will sit on, it's just because we are actually that bubble of a people. We never had been that functional people or that lineal people, as a matter of fact. So it is really sad, but that was the way it was supposed to be. Now, even getting into ourselves, do you think one of the reasons actually why we think we are one, actually we have characteristics that we are different, this diversity, when we talk about diversity, that we just look at the color, so we don't look
mm.
at the thinking or the art of doing things. How did the people in the South deal with issues of breastfeeding, issues of women in the community, and the roles that each one had to play? And these are critical little things that I think even from the beginning, before the colonial came, prehistory, we had this difference, but we didn't see it as a difference between us. We just saw it as how we were raised, how we were taught, similarities in other, and we fused together. But this idea of we just forgot, we don't even read the signs, we don't even know what it means, and that's why we don't even identify with our cultural like artifacts, because we cannot read the writings of what our ancestors were telling us in this craft. Why did they take that time to build something apart from the pyramids? Even just the clothes that we wear, we just see sculptures on it, or colorful animals, or whatever. Why would we do that? Why did we not eradicate some of these structures to just say, huh, all right, we were after all bush people?
Mhm. Um, well, I can say, and just to agree in terms of the writing, for example, in Congo, Fukuyao talks about how they would tie ropes in a certain configuration. And the
Mhm,
person who could read the ropes understood what had happened in what time
mhm,
period at a certain thing. But he also mentions that because of colonialism and the outright laws which banned in certain parts, especially in Congo, the traditional educational system, many of us have not been able to go to those institutions to learn how to
mhm,
read those carvings and like. We stopped going through initiations and the like where all of this was taught. So the colonialism totally disrupted the way that we relate to each other, the way that we communicate with each other, not only in terms of current, but in terms of the future. So this is why we carve, and these symbols mean this, because we want to not only speak to the people who's living with us now, but to the children unborn, because we're trying to transfer values, to the generation, because we're trying to keep community together. So, these deeper aspects of why we're kind of separated from that is because deliberately that was the rules of the colonial period. And so, more and more people, although slowly, are starting to ask those questions. Well, what did this mean? Why did they do this? And we're trying to record those fragments of people who were still in those traditions, which is why people like Fukiao was and Dr. Malidoma Some, who just recently passed, and Credo Mutwa, for example, people who were initiated into their their life, like Jordan Ngabani is another one, who was initiated into their culture, but who were also educated in the West in a way that they can write down and communicate, exactly the process and what this means and happens. So unfortunately, those few remnants that still adhere to the traditional ways and educational system aren't necessarily also involved in the so-called Western style education as well, and so unable to communicate with people who have been educated that way. And so, yeah, it's kind of a difficult thing, but you can't hide. Light has to be expressed, light has to be shown. And so, this is one of the reasons why the conference is very important, so that we can look at these fragments of culture, of deep culture. And what we mean by culture is those things that a population of people do to solve their problem. And so when we're talking about the culture, you have to ask the question, well, what was the problem? And how did this community solve its problem? And the processes, the ideas, and the values that they use to solve those problems is what becomes the inner logic of the people itself. So that's how we got to kind of understand it. So when I'm looking at, okay, how did the Basa solve their problem in terms of, for example, a relationship? What is my role as a man in the community? What is, her role as a woman? What is the role of elders? What are the expectations of one of each other in this community? That's where when you start asking these questions, that's where the communication, that's where those signs and symbols become meaningful. So, for example, that word ma'at that I mentioned earlier, when I trace the origin of it through a very systematic process, I come to discover that the cultural aspect of what we call it ma'at literally goes back to a word meaning to extend your hand and to share food. And from this idea of sharing food, see, this is something that you find common, is that the central role of hospitality between neighbors and strangers or whatnot, that is the foundation of the culture, to being able to share and to make sure that there is balance and energy for everyone, that everyone is fed or whatnot, because you can't serve your purpose in life if you're hungry, if you're thirsty. And so before any kind of business can be established, are you fed? Do you want some water? I see that you started off the conversation making sure that everybody had their water, because if you can't pay attention to the conversation if you're thirsty, and hungry, and so that is the basis, and that becomes a whole religious system. It's the sharing of food, and becomes the basis of society, as a whole. And so when you start seeing these same patterns all over the continent with people who share the same variation of the same ancestral language, who are doing the same types of rituals, had the same type of approach to education and initiation in the thing, you know what you thought was really separate, you find that there's a commonality to work. And that's what Shekoff the Joke recognized, and why he was
Mhm.
so vehement on the the unification of Africa, not only as a political state, the United States of Africa, that was one of his focuses, but also understanding and getting people on the ground to understand that you're really not that much different over here in Senegal to those brothers and sisters who are in Sudan, and you're not much different than those brothers and sisters who are in Namibia or those who are in Mozambique, and of course in ancient Egypt. So if you understand your common culture, your common cultural trait in language and underlying psychology, then now you have a basis to come together for a United States of Africa and to start
Correct.
working with each other and trading and to build, an economy to where we can better defend ourselves from outside.
Hmm. Hmm. Very correct. Um, we were having this conversation with Baba James a couple of days ago, and we trying to talk about the issue of education. We keep talking all the time, like, our curriculum, our education. And sometimes I really like, when we were growing up, it was like a pattern. You have to go to school, and even your mom. And sometimes I was like, oh my God, they actually, just like you said, did so much harm to us. So much harm. How I wish that those schools we were going there were the schools that would have to teach us, who we were or the things that we do. But we just acted as the spiritual beings, but we could not actually, like now in a more scientific way, say that the reason why I did this was like this. It was just normal that, you just did those things that you saw your mom, that you saw your father did, and without even questioning some of these structures. But I realized, always being inquisitive as I'd been, I saw my great grandmother, and she
Mm,
had tattoos. She had tattoos. She had a piercing, and she had the ones on the ears, a couple of. And I was like, wait, how come you had a tattoo? And if you look at more Igbo Yoruba cultures, also they do have it. But this was really the tattoos that we see today. She had it, but like a stamp. And then the mouth, she had the piercing, and she had the ears. They could wear like 10 earrings. And then I was like, that's great grandma, not even my grandmother. And like a baby, I was like, you just saw those things a little old, but you could see those signs. Then I also saw them also in my grandmother, that she had those tattoos. And I started questioning, like, when we came out here, then we see tattoos, and everything was just like, oh, these people, they do tattoos. But our great grand, they did that. It was a culture of celebration, of, even when I questioned, the marks that they put had totally different meanings and signs. And my grandma, like, that was a sign of communication. Like, if you saw a girl that was a virgin, you could see from her own mark or from her earrings the type of things that they do. But today, when we start talking about this culture, or talk about this incidents, it's like it's something that we learn today.
mm,
Piercing, tattoo, as if but they did it, even filing of their teeth. They did all that. If you look at the Himbar people in Sudan, the big earrings that they put to pull their mouths and stuff like that, everything had a meaning and a reason why they would do it, whether it's for lifestyle or it's for communication, or it's to, like a common identity among the clans, among themselves. And that's quite interesting. Because today, when we're talking about building the Africa we want, because of this too much melange, we can't even see those particles that we need to start fitting together before we even understand ourselves. Now we just come most of the time like, oh, we need to know who we are. We need to understand ourselves. And sometimes I'm like, wow, to really understand ourselves, it's exactly what you're saying.
Indeed.
Or if you would have to design a curriculum, for instance, what is it that we're going to put on? What will
Well,
be mentioned to?
well, I want to take a step back to the comment that you made about your great grandmother and the tattoos and the piercings in the jewelry that she had on. I like the way that Jordan Ngubani put it when the who I mentioned earlier, who wrote the book um, Conflict of Minds, 1979. And how he articulated is that when you see these signs among African people, you should understand that this jewelry, these clothing, these markings are a commitment to an ideal that the community has generated for itself. So this is my commitment to this ideal. And I think that a lot of times we don't really, I'm thinking collectively, dig into what are the ideals of the community. What type of human being does that community desire to create? Because once you understand that, then this is where the curriculum comes in. The first thing you got to understand is what does it mean to be human? And what is the ideal human being? Once your community has understood what the ideal human being is that your community needs in order to thrive and to survive, then you create the institutions and the curriculum around that.
I share.
You get what I'm saying? So one of the values, of course, in any type of nation building and sustaining is family. It's always family first. So in the early stages of the part of the curriculum, I would start off with, introducing this one framework that whatever we're doing, it should answer 4 fundamental questions of life. Who am I? Where did I come from? What is my purpose? And what must I do to fulfill that purpose? Right? Then I'm going to assign the students for them to go into their personal family and to start tracing lineage as far back as possible and to notate what your relatives have done and contributed to the family, and or even if they did wrong, is whatever. It's you're documenting and understanding the history of your personal family. Then you can go on to the other folks and to see what great person in your community or society and larger. But it always starts with family. You should know what grandma did, what she went through. What was her likes and dislikes? What did she like to eat? What she didn't like to eat? What did she like to drink? Why does she do what she did? What was the life experience that shaped the way that she did? What did they do then that we don't do now? And then, acts more fundamentally in terms of its value and weight. Like it's stuff like this. It always starts with the immediate family. And then you go on into other structures, because again, you want people to value and to understand and to know, who they are. So the 4 fundamental questions: who am I? Where did I come from? What is my purpose? And what must I do to fulfill that purpose? you know, and then, you know, because all of the other things kind of gravitate. So like if you have a liking for mathematics and numbers, calculating, you know, of course you can go either into business if you have some ideas, or you can go into other type of scientific fields, you know, like in astrophysics or in the chemistry and the like. If you like, since maybe you're more so of an artist, you like to communicate more abstractly, you know, there's lanes for that, but you got to kind of understand and see, you know, who else in your family, you know, had these particular traits, because now they become a resource for you. So this is why it's important to know your family. You always want to start with your family first, and and then we can get into the larger, you know, societal curriculum in terms of, you know, just understanding Africana, Africology in general, you know, human beings evolving in a certain way, and migrations and language, and, you know, how these cultures and similarities, differences, you know, interactions between different groups, and, you know, the environment. You know, part of the curriculum has to be what environment do we live in? You know, what are the resources that are here? What botanical, uh, you know, plants and things and medicines exist around us? How do we, you know, take advantages? How do we contribute back to ensure that these resources are here for our unborn great grandchildren? You know, et cetera, et cetera. And so, you know, it will be kind of centered around that. And then, you know, the spirituality component. You know, what do we mean? What do we understand as a god or god or powers in nature? You know, what does our culture say about this? You know, when it comes to ethics, what does our culture say about, you know, ethics? What is ethical to us? You know, and so it would kind of be centered, you know, around those things, because once you get them interested in that, in terms of the physical environment, in terms of cosmos, and deity, and in terms of family, then you have the basis, you know, for to expand, because now you're giving them a curriculum, um, with an understanding that you're learning all of these different things, so that you can contribute to the forward flow, the forward movement of the culture, you know, of the society at large. And so, you know, you're going through this understanding, you're discovering what your purpose is, and how to utilize those gifts that you came here with, you know, to impact for the better, you know, human life. And, you know, so that's just kind of off the top, but that's where I was.
It's very okay. We're just coming out from this season. I think most of them are still in it. This period where Christians talk about, or the Easter. And we saw a very, I don't know how to describe it, a kind of a very strange video coming from the continent, from a community of women. I think everybody, all of you that are watching me, you definitely have seen it, because we actually shared that a lot. Community of women that actually were weeping on, yeah, it's not a body, on the sculpture of a white Jesus. And they had to mourn for 3 days, wearing black sackcloth, is to say, I mean, really crying, you know. And when we look at incidents like that, and then you even say, even if it was real, even if it was a reality, all right, but the culture, or the whites, or the Caucasians, whose Jesus in that image is, don't even do it. And then you try to kind of like think like, okay, just like, let's just even play around and think that you see a group of white people crying over a black man as sculpture black. So you're talking about psychology, and the kind of underlying, you know, mental I don't know whether it's mental or what. If you look at that wailing, and then you even look at the challenges that we're going through, probably in our villages or in our community, people actually don't express that kind of emotions when some things that regards us is supposed to. And then we begin to see how many generations actually have separated from the spirituality, from the spiritual way, the communal way that we did things, to getting right up to this point. And the big question is, if my mother is doing that, so how far did he come or she came, to raise me up in that ideology that I'm even now a daughter and she's still doing it. You know, I try to put a lot of things together. I really don't just throw something. I really ask. And because we're looking for these solutions, how would you define something in that kind of a situation in which we find ourselves? How deep is this harm? And how many generations can one just look at something like this and then teach people that no, it's not, or it really will require something extra?
Ooh, that's a difficult question to answer, for the simple fact that this is, to my knowledge, really kind of new for human history. So we don't have a blueprint from an earlier group who had to go through this. And, ultimately it's going to boil down again to values. Now, the word value essentially comes from a root meaning power, right?
Mhm.
And when you have these other groups who came in and forcibly made you abandon your culture and your religion and your way of life, ultimately what they did was a devaluing process,
Mhm.
making you devalue who you are and who your ancestors were and the way that they looked at the world. So for them, in order to sell you that they were superior, they had to devalue
Mhm.
in all aspects. So remember, value has to deal with power. So they
Mhm.
had to decrease power because your ancestors make you powerful.
Mhm.
Your ways of doing things make you powerful. But I can't, if you are already powerful, why would you need to adopt anybody else's way of doing anything?
Mhm.
So the marketing has to make it seem like, well, you're not, anybody unless you have what we have, because this is where the real power is. And so I have to devalue what it is that you have. I can't make you know, um, I can't sell you a BMW, if you already have an equivalent or a better car in your eyes.
Mm.
There's no reason for me to give up my car, especially for something that is of equal or greater value. It has the same features. But, this is exactly what they've done. And so, when you see white Jesus, who would more than likely look like an Arab, given the region, like a brownerish Arab type person, knowing the Palestinians and the like. It is that is a sign of the depths of the psychological slavery. So what it's going to take is, programs like this. It's a slow process, because once you've educated a person, in their early years growing up, it's going to be very difficult for you to change their mindset and values, because all of that is established really before the age of 13.
Mm.
And so, what you have been introduced to during those formative learning years, is essentially the essential character of who you're going to be, you know, going in and to the rest of your life, unless something drastic and major, you know, happens that forces you to do a complete 180. But it's really going to be for those who are out of that mindset to be able to create those types of institutions and curriculums and learning to get them before, you know, they reach the age of 13. It's going to be more difficult to try to get adults to understand the value in themselves and in their people and in their way of doing things. You know, to abandon what the foreigners have given them. You know, to re-adopt the ways and beings of their ancestors. And so it goes back to the question I said: what type of human being does your culture need? Once you understand and lay out and understand what that is, then the institutions and the curriculum for the society is built around that. So even like with the ancient Egyptians, you know, like their ideal human beings were Osiris or Wasur and Aset, Isis, right? So we understand that they're principles, mythological characters, but these are the ideal human beings. And everything is created to facilitate that type of development so that you become an Asar, that you become an Isis in that community, because these are the characteristics that we deem and to be the most valuable. And we need to come together as a collective to ensure that we get as close to that ideal, you know, as possible as individuals within this community, so that we can better serve society. And so, you know, you're going to have to be able to have that curriculum fully formed, so that, you know, they and it has, you're going to have to show that being who you are is valuable and that you can survive and even surpass what others, what the foreigners have given you, you know, given your own culture. People got to see the culture working for you, you know, in terms of your interpersonal relationships between man and woman, in terms of your children, you know, in terms of your sense of style, even if it's the clothing or whatnot, you know, when an African woman comes into the place, you know, with her full African garb, it's just a royalness that you sense that you would not get if you see her in foreign clothes, or her with some blonde perm hair or whatnot. She got to see, the young girls got to see you with your natural hair and puff, looking beautiful and regal. You walk the street, you being successful in the life, and so they can see, you know, they have a model to emulate. You know, and so, you know, even the society has to create those types of myths with people that look like you and people who come out of the community looking like you, holding the values and being able to tower over life's 1001 challenges, you know, built from the built from the processes and the cultural problem solving techniques that the community has been able to give the individual. Once they start seeing that on a regular basis, you know, they'll be able to first entertain it, and then you can have these conversations, introduce them to history. These are some important people in history. These are some important events. This is why you do what you do, and they'll be more open to it. And at the heart of all of that, it has to be love. It has to be done out of love. It can't be done out of spite. We can't try to dehumanize our brothers and sisters who are in that mindset, because we understand why they're doing this: colonialism and the invasions and the like. So if we understand how that process happened, then, you know, out of compassion and love, just be good to them. Your goodness and your love being shown to them will do much more than just trying to hit them with facts and information about it. So, you know, those are the things that I think of given the question that you asked.
You're very correct. Very correct. Those of you who came late and probably you're questioning and asking what's going on here. We're talking about the One Africa Conference and thoughts or critical things that would be discussed at this conference. And so you see our brother Asar Imhotep is one of the keynote speaker or one of the family of this One Africa Conference. So you can already feel, from his background, from his research work, from his topic, from his focus, his contribution to what actually we're talking about, like trying to look at what are the topics we're going to be putting there. I think it's when people hear conference, because of the word itself, conference is like a group of people. Yes, they're knowledgeable in and have experience in certain things, and they share from their perspective, to either educate the others or uh, to put a point or to contribute something to knowledge. But this One Africa Conference is more than just speakers that would be presenting from the research work or stuff like that. It's going to be more of a workshop also. It's gonna be more also on putting really like us globally on the table and try to see what are the pieces that were taken, how can they even form, and then we begin to understand, or like we had spoken one time here with King Maponga, that we need to assess the continent and its people. Like if you look at the groupings that we already have formed, you can begin to see, apart from the cultural differences, I mean, the indigenous cultural differences, us also, we've also metamorphosed into different, people, depending on our environment, depending on the places where we come from. So I think it's really going to be a huge challenge at that conference, trying to assess all this and then trying to, it's not going to be a solution on spot, but already the fact that we have to assess and imagine how we the oh my goodness, people, cultures, land, resources, minerals, all the possessions that we have, everything that we rounding up to say this is a rich country and all of us come from there, but then something happened, which we all know. So I think, or I don't know whether you see it that way. It's a question that I'm trying to like, from what I know, it's going to be more of, yes, we all have these ideologies. We all have written all these books. We all know from the perspective that they were saying. Do we say that if we want to, we're taking into the studies of anti-job or the others, it means we have to go back to that? Or we're going to look at what do we have now? What do we have to assess it?
I think it is going to be multi level, because you have different speakers from different backgrounds, and it's going to be making different contributions, but they all have one aim, and that is to, again, to show the continuity and the unity of African people, and to take inventory of the best of who we are and what we've done, so that that becomes the foundation for moving forward. And so I I'm not in company with individuals who believe that you necessarily have to go back to the old ways, but that you learn what they were and the value of them, and if they are truly valuable and can stand the test of time, to redesign them in a new way that is fresh and serves the people currently. And from that, you can build, your economy and things. Because people don't understand that the economy is not built simply from products that are made, or agricultural goods that are grown, and minerals being sold. That's not the basis of an economy. The basis of an economy is interpersonal relationships between people.
I share.
Because, you know, first and foremost, this will go back to part of the discussion we had at the beginning, that you have to see your people as problem solvers. And that you have to, so you have to see, first and foremost, you have to see your people as problem solvers. That's why we study the culture, because the culture is the way that people solve problems. So understand what the problems were that exist and how that community solves its problems through what we call culture. So, you know, how do people solve the problems? And look, first of all, see your people as valuable and that they have the capacity to solve problems.
Sure.
Two, the establishment of trust between your people. Because if I have to trust that you are a person of your word, right? And that you have the requisite skills to help me solve my problem. Once I feel that I can trust you and your company or your family establishment, then I can reach out my arms and give you money for you to help solve my problem. If I'm hungry and I don't feel like cooking, I'm going to go to your restaurant because, you know, I love and appreciate how you cook, and I trust that you're not trying to harm me or scam me or whatnot, and we can do business, and that's how it is exchanged. And, you know, or to build my home, or to fix my car, or to, you know, kind of help me look at investment and the like, right? So it starts with interpersonal relationships. And this is what we're trying to establish here, why the in-person meetings are very important, because you're establishing relationships. The topics and the, you know, quasi celebrity of the guests, I mean of the speakers, are just a means to bring people together, to network. So now that I'm at the conference, oh, where are you from? Oh, where are you from? Oh, well, what do you do? Oh, you do that? I know somebody that needs that over here. Can I have your card information? Oh, you have a show? Where is it on? What times did you come on? What channel is it on? You know, where can I go watch it? You know, it's these interactions, it's these meetings that get people to talking to one another and wanting to find out what they do and how they serve the community. And maybe, you know, you provide a service or something that I will either need now or need in the future, and I have your information, you know. And so this is you know, like the other part of the conference that is not generally talked about, because we, of course, we talk about the individual speakers and information, but that's part of the reason why we come together in the first place. And so it is very dynamic in terms of the purposes, you know, of the conference, and you know, that the interpersonal relationships, the establishment of that, showing you how you all have this in common. Now you can begin to look at, you know, if you're in Nigeria, looking at some people in Mali and in Senegambia as extended family, looking at people in Southern Africa and Namibia and Zambia, South Africa, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe as family. And now, you know, we have this. Now we can establish expectations, continental and diasporic expectations for one another, and start building a skills database. And having conferences, or just having, not necessarily conferences, but festivals and the like. Oh, there's a festival in Senegal, I want to go. There's a festival in Jamaica, let's go. There's a festival in Brazil, let's go. Just celebrating.
In Germany, there's the one in Germany in August, and all of us are meeting in Germany. So before we still going on. Yes, festivals. That was our routine. That's how they gathered to celebrate in one ever whatever way. So exactly like you were saying, Brother Asa, today everything is just like when we talk about economy, it's just like okay, we go to those festivals too. But the festivals that we grew up seeing was that relationship,
Mm.
family that is coming together, eat together, dance together, and then tell stories, laugh, and it was just there, the dancing circles. Festivals is not just like what we come now. We also have taken all the narratives and just put it in, and it's all about market. It's all about this. But the festivals, when we say festival, we didn't even have any stage. And even in Tübingen, Germany, this year, we're not going to have those big clunker things because we never saw it. We danced around in the circle on the field, on the grass. So even when a child would fall, or I mean, it was just, and that's why we could do some of those games that we did.
Mm.
And it's not just a festival, you just go and people just stand and that's not us. I mean, this year in Germany, hey, 4th to the 7th of August, all of us are meeting, all these movements, or all anyone that, and we're gonna go the village festival way, the way we grew, the way we see our mothers and our fathers celebrate. I mean, it was all just I also made that mistake doing these festivals for more than 15 years. And I also, because brainwashed into it, oh no, you have to get a standard that is this. And anyway, always you go to a festival, you come back, it's like you didn't go. Like you went to a church, you didn't hear anything. We go to
Man,
festivals, you're coming back, you're removing your shoes and holding them on the hand because there's just no way that you come back normal. Right. So
indeed. Yeah, that's the I mentioned earlier that one of those unique common, you may not people hear people articulate it, but this is my observation, just kind of studying Africa broadly, is that Africans live life as it is an art.
sure.
And we put on these events in order to celebrate life's beauties. And that's where like a lot of these festivals, that's the spirit from which it emerges. It's just time to celebrate life and each other and family and blessings. And this is many people may not necessarily see it as a spiritual thing, but it is. This is one of the ways that we express spirituality is in celebration and in dance and in music. And we have kind of technologies now that can amplify it. So you can get some good Afrobeat and some good house music, and of course on the alongside with the drums and the like, you have a full experience, and just people just come home drained, but not drained. Like not like their spirits were drained. The body is
Yes.
just it feels it afterwards, but in the moment, you have been possessed by the experience and the music, and just all part of the culture of celebrating life's beauty. And 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 so that's what I would hope that many people come to understand about themselves and their culture, and how essential it is to keep that alive, because more and more of the world is becoming like robotic, and trying to distance themselves from human, and it is that human experience that
Mm,
that we need, that is the motivation behind the invention
mm.
and the
Ashe.
technologies and stuff that we celebrate. It's just, how can we do this to express and celebrate life's beauties?
Mm.
That's where the invention things come from. So my 2 cents.
I'm just smiling the way you put it, and that's one concrete thing that we shouldn't leave from here without taking along with us. The robotic nature in which we are unconsciously getting into. We're not even paying attention. We don't even realize it, that we're really not being human anymore. Apart from what we eat, apart from what we take into us, even adopting that robotic lifestyle becomes even more of a swag, you know, like it has to be like that. No. And I think exactly what you said, we have to do a lot of these festivities, particularly now that the world is open again and we are still lucky to be here. For whatever reason, our purpose is not fulfilled yet, that our ancestors will be calling us. We still have the time to bring back that past, to catch back those years, or, you know, connect, merge with one another, just do those things. We want to introduce back the rope jumping. Most of us can't even jump again. And you go, when we saw our mothers in these festivals, they had babies, they had us on the back, and they were doing the rope jumping. And so the attitude of sport, the nature in which we did our own sport, like you said, everything was just about spirituality. Everything we ate together on the same bowl, on our plantain leaves with our fingers and our hands. That is a lot of spirituality. You cannot define that process just from eating. That one, you can write a book about it. And then the different games that we played, the different stories, you know. And now today, everything is just like, either we, even if we want to do our fashion, we have to look for very skinny people that has to do fashion. Oh, we're not skinny people. I mean, I am really, you know. And so, but in a village, if they had to show that, you see the I mean, it was just about who you that person is. And I think we have to be conscious of that. While we're talking about coming together, uniting, we should also begin to be conscious that, look at you again. Is this really me? Is, you know, assess your own self. Take a look at you a couple of times. Like, was I like this before? What have I changed? And if I've changed, how do ask one another, how do you see me now? How was I? These are all exercises that even during the festival days we're going to do. Just try to assess ourselves again, because most of the time we just functioning, we're not paying attention. And I think that's also one thing that I would love us to do at the One Africa conference. You know, like sometimes we just stand in 2019 when Professor Pielo Lumumba, we held hands. Yes, in the community, we just held hands and do the kind of mbolo. I mean, if you know the basa mbolo. Mbolo, we just went around, you know, dancing in the circus like we always would do. And he was like, I cannot remember how many years I've not done the mbolo thing. So I think culture, activity, trying to match the words of trying the academic way and then just going back to the normal village way. For me, that's what I am coming to the conference to do, to bring this village girl thing to us, because we've been out of it completely. You know, the memories of the past, how we grew up, the things that actually made us just who we are, that they didn't even teach you, they didn't have to teach you this is who you are, but you just find yourself doing those things. And it's gonna be wonderful. I'm calling on all of you, if you haven't picked your ticket. These are the last rounds. This is where we're just now saying, okay, we're washing our hands, the food is ready, and we're gonna be eating. And so if you haven't gotten your ticket, you know, our brother is here again to tell you, I'm going to be one of those. So you already see my face, me also sitting here. I'm going to be that village girl, right? That you know. And yeah, we're going to do a lot of these things. What is it that we can do again, Brother Asa? About, you know, what is it that we could just do in celebrating our oneness in this Africa? What do you think we can, apart from, yeah, normal routines?
That's a good question, because it really just kind of depends on where you are, and to the degree of the colonial state of mind of the population in which you're at, you know. And so, like, there's, you know, I'm from the southern part of the United States, and you know, my family is primarily from Louisiana. So this is where a lot of Congo people arrived, a lot of people from Nigeria, especially. And, you know, there's an area there called Congo Square. And, you know, this is where many of the Africans would come because, you know, they were only allowed on Sundays to, I guess, have some rest, if you could even say that. But, you know, in terms of church and the like. But they used to play there in Congo Square. So, you know, the birthplace of jazz and all of that. And, you know, I think like for places like in the United States, you know, because what I meant to say as well is that, you know, even though it's a city, it still had kind of a village-ness to it, you know, because I grew up in my family in the lower ninth ward. You know, we had blocks where a lot of family, different cousins and aunts and grandmothers and all that, you know, stayed. And, you know, so we can go from house to house, you know, we would eat and they would offer, you know, or whatnot. There was a candy lady, and, you know, it was just, we had cousins and family galore. And so it gets even more village-like when you go into the you know, the smaller cities in Louisiana. But I bring up Congo Square in a sense that maybe to kind of start that village, you know, even festival mindset is to just kind of pick a day of the week, like a Saturday or Sunday or whatnot, and just go to the park and just have like an open drum circle, or you know, with the open drum circle, just have a radio play some deep house music and something like that, and kind of, you know, bring up, say, we're just people just coming, chilling, celebrating, you know, inform them to bring some drinks and snacks and stuff. Y'all just chilling, you just vibe with one another. No necessarily, you know, kind of formal, intentional, you know, purpose, like we're going to solve, you know, Black community problems here. But no, it's just come and celebrate and live free and interact with one another. You know, like that, like that could be a catalyst, and then you kind of introduce, you know, depending on the culture and mindsets there. But just at least that, you know, start off with just an open drum circle. Pick a Sunday, you know, or whatnot, and do that. Introduce some things, some foods, or, you know, encourage, like, pick a theme, you know, one Sunday, and, you know, like someone introduce a kind of food, or you know, like you teaching people how to make certain, you know, like there's just a little part, there's a little section there, the music's still playing, but for those who want to know, this is how you make, you know, jollof rice. This is how we make it here. This is how we use plantain. Here's some recipes. Share this with your family. Like, it's just basic. Don't make it too complicated. They ain't gotta write an essay when they come, you know, about Africana history and stuff. You just introduce the fundamental, just everyday aspects of the culture, you know, to the people without any kind of, and they'll just adopt it. They'll just be part of the everyday experience, and that's just one way which uh, I could just think of off the top of my head, you know, kind of just start that process, you know.
You're describing it, you're already in it, brother Answer. I see, even you know, the rhythm that you're talking at, that like we just drum, you're already in it. And drumming is one of those things that we know that is the instrument of 12-12 that would solidarize us. It's already a fact. And this drum circles, like you say, and I think this is exactly one of the points that we're going to be saying while we're talking. Let's just begin to put the reality. And what you're saying is exactly what we're saying. When we start drumming, when we say we just drum at a particular time and we get that chord 12-12, let's just say 12-12, we're drumming, we just drum. It's everyone, necessarily not Sunday. When we say Sunday now, it's just because people are actually not working on weekend or something like that. Just can you imagine if all of us just start drumming? Just imagine the impact, and just an impact that on one day we drum across the world. The vibration, the connectivity, something that will actually tie us. And that drum is exactly that message, that trumpet, that melanin that is going to work. That's because that's what our ancestors use, right? So yes, get into the squares, call one or two or three neighbors, and we always in our neighborhood, we just gather there and just play a thing with no formality, and anyone just join. You just see people just joining. In Germany, we used to do it like before we even started. That's how the festival started, just drumming, and you just see people standing and just watching, and we're like, no, 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 don't just stand and watch. You can also come and join and drum. And like, and a lot of people are like, oh, can I try it? Oh, can I do it? I say, hey, come on. You can just come and see people dancing and enjoying, and you just stand. Just come and also join and just be a part, right? So probably another way to detox this too much functionality, this too much talk, this too much people really drum on the continent. The continent is totally the colonized version of us, the enslaved, right? So it's not like, okay, being on the continent is just that we see a lot of us are just the same color maybe, but if you look at the lifestyle, almost unique in and identifying ourselves like that, except you really go to even the villages now also is still not the way it was. So going back is a matter of process, like you said, but it takes already steps to doing it. Like we just begin to do every little thing that we can do in our own way now, like the drum things, setting our alarm, that something that has to make a jingle, and we say, oh, I'm connecting. I already said, I set my 12:12, like the prophet 12:12 was here and said, every 12 p.m., just set your alarm on 12:12. That's the code. And when it rings, then I just, oh, I am because we are. I am because each time that alarm rings, automatically I just find myself, oh, I am because we are, or I just smile, because we have to start doing some steps, practical things, that we're committed to this unity that we it shouldn't sound like poetry, but it should some commitment, some actions, little things. Get a drum. Those of you that would not be able to make it, we really have ordered a lot of drums that we'll put online. We need to get a drum. That's one of the things that we must do.
Indeed. I wish I was at the house right now. I'll show you
I
my drum.
have mine. I
Yeah.
have mine there. A couple of them everywhere.
Yeah. Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, my neighbors get a sample every now and then of the drum, and just but that's how, like, for example, there's a form of music called zydeco,
Mm-hmm.
and that comes out of Louisiana, and um, one of my relatives, Clifton Chenier, is like one of its pioneers, and I've never met him. However, talking to some family members who, and he's out of Opelousas, Louisiana. Some of my family members who know him used to tell us that, because everyone in my family, I don't say everyone, but there's a lot of people in my family who are just musically inclined. And like coming out of Louisiana, New Orleans, like you just had to play instruments, music. And so my dad used to play drums, keys, trombone, horns, all this other kind of stuff. And they were telling me that, back at Opelousas, the families would just go under these big trees and just
Mm-hmm.
play,
Yes.
you know. And this is where a lot of the music and stuff comes from. It's just people just going out in the middle of the street for no reason, or going under a tree, and they just practice and just play. So, this kind of musical inclination. I'm more so on the keys and modern, house and hip hop production and stuff today, but still
Mm-hmm.
in the tradition of what the family. But this is one of the reasons why you have these conversations about family. You learn about family,
Yes.
so you know that these kind of spirits that are in you that are attracting you. This is not just, you know, it just didn't emerge out of it. You know, it's within the family, you know, lineage. And so, you know, it's just go under a tree and just you'd be amazed, you know. And one quick story, because like uh I also, you know, would tour the country doing spoken word poetry, right? And
Yeah.
I had a poetry event in Houston, Texas. It was called I did specialty events like concert, poetry events, and I would do a monthly open mic, right? And the monthly open mic was held at the Shrine of the Black Madonna, you know, church and bookstore, and and there was a place where they sold African art and all that, you know, in there, and that's where we did the poetry. But what how I would advertise the poetry, it would be these I would call them a pop-up poetry shop. I would just go to any random spot where I think people would be at. I would put the radio on, put some music on to attract people's attention. And then we would cut it low or cut it off and just start spitting, you know, just a couple of poets it out. And then we let people come up and they would participate and they would start, you know, reciting poetry or whatnot. And while they're doing that, we're passing out flyers. Come to the event. You know, like we didn't come out and say, you know, we have this event in this place. We just showed them the culture. And then people participated. And because they were engaged in it, this is how we, you know, built up, you know, the audience coming into it. Don't just pop up anywhere and just do it. And just give people the vibe. And I think in that same vein, uh, you know, we can make those things like the drum circles and the like happen. You just pop up and show them and just say, hey, we'll be every Sunday, you know, for, let's just say for the summer, because it gets really cold out here. So, you know, during the summer, these 3 months, every Sunday we'll be here drumming, you know, and you can come and vibe with us and, you know, participate and the like, and then go from there.
Excellent. 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 I just shared the line of the tickets for the conference in Detroit. For those of you who haven't, and a lot of people that are having questions like, where is the streaming gonna go? If you buy your ticket, you just get access. You get access to all the platforms that would be streamed. So please do get your ticket. I also talked to some of the prominents and just every other person that would be coming. Everybody's just like, we're so looking forward. The excitement, people that are calling for reservations, and those that are also buying their online tickets to be a part of this. I think something, when we come together like Africans, something always happens. I know that from childhood. Each time that we just gather for a common purpose, we're gathering in Michigan or Detroit on behalf of all of us worldwide. And that's already a kind of a heavy, not just duty, because duty is, I won't use that word. But whenever we came, even when you hear all the statement, when two or three are gathered together and this and that, whenever we came as a spiritual being that we have and commit something like our unity, what we're talking about, whenever we gathered for that purpose, to drink water and to share the stories of how it was and how it should be. I want to really break it down for in a simple way that we don't make it to like, we just gathering together, like he said, problem solving culture, problem solving. How do we gather ourselves again? How do we pay attention to one another? How do we take care of our elder? How do we take care of our children, our boys, our girls? How are we going to start raising them up? We've been through all this. These are all things, simple things. It's not like it's a rocket science that we're going to create there, send some missiles to whoever, I don't know. Yes, of course, the missiles of love is going to flee and catch every soul where they're going to be. That's the missiles. I can guarantee you that will come out of that. But I just want to call on the global audience to know that even if you are not um, part of the conference in terms of like even get a ticket to watch it, but just make sure during those days and that time of the conference that you are connected. You know what I mean? I would send you all a signal what we need to do wherever we are. Anyone that knows that something will be happening like that. And because I grew up and I saw that when the elders were going to gather for something, the women also, even when they were not going, were also part of that, and they did some rituals. The children also were a part. So not being present on a face to face, but just being consciously there, just knowing my people are gathering at this time, at this point, for this purpose. Just that consciousness of you being there, it's too much. It's too much communication. It's too much energy. It's too much contribution just where you are at that time. And so all of us would do that. In these days where we will be, the ones that will be gathering, the ones that will not be gathering, you have to pay close attention that you have your water with you at that times, that you are just with us. So we are going to repeatedly do this, even if I'm going to be doing a road show on this. Yes, I'll be doing it a couple all these days just to keep us trained to know that when we're gathering on an occasion like this, for whatever purpose, just like even when we'll be gathering for our festivals, that's why our communication is very necessary, that we know who is doing what where in the name of the global, of the collective, that we know so that we can be a part of that event. So, brother, I want to thank you so very much. And for those that haven't gotten their ticket, want to be physically present, we need a physical attendance. We need a physical virtual. We need the spiritual connection. All the elements that we have with us, whether you're from Caribbean or from the continent of any part or from Asia, any place that you are as a son of the soil or daughter or mother or child or girl, make sure you are part of this event, because we're not going to record the number of participants by those that were there or by the number of tickets. Everywhere that we go is always a collective, and we know that the ones that we even see, the ones that we don't see, are even more. Imagine how many ancestors are going to be with us, right? So the millions that each of us come from this gene, the extensions are going to be present. So that's already the power of that unity that we already pronounce. And don't just say the One Africa Conference, One Africa Power in Unity Conference. What's that we are spitting out? Actually examine and go with the flow of what we're going to do. The One Africa Power in Unity Conference. When you want to say it to somebody or during those days, that's what you are saying. Complete that statement. Okay, so yes, bro. I don't know whether you want to add any other thing or round up. Yes, it will be an opportunity.
All I would add is that, you know, it is a movement. It's not simply a conference. So it's been an ongoing movement that has been going on. This is just one of those critical events or timestamps in history of this forward flowing movement. And the ideal is to open the channels. So, for example, the people who are producing the conference created a documentary film, which I'm also in, called Hoppy. Hoppy is the name of the ancient Egyptian, excuse me, is the ancient Egyptian name for the Nile, what we call the Nile River today. That name survives in Ethiopia as Abe. They say the Abe River. And the whole purpose of the river, you know, as is an open channel of communication between people of different distances, of
Mhm.
long distances, to be able to connect and gather and exchange, trade. And so this happy movement itself is just, as we would say, you know, carving the canal, creating the river, so that, you know, we can all travel and flow and stop at anchor points and exchange and learn and stuff and build from one another, so that you can kind of build the same, not the same, but, you know, an equivalent or greater society that you know, we all revere and love, you know, known as ancient Kemet, Tamari, Egypt, whatever you want to call it. So we we admire that historical society because of not only the type of architecture, but more so the kinds of values and relationships that were established, that was needed in order to build such a society. What we're
Mhm.
in what we're calling modern times, and we believe that we can do better. And but the only way that we're going to get there is with each other and together. And
I
so, you know,
share.
we want to open these channels of communication with one another, so we can say, okay, what must be done? What's your skill set? What's my skill set? Let's work together. Let's make this happen. You know,
Mm.
it may not come like a, you know, like we just create the United States of Africa, but it could
Um,
be as simple as, you know, I'm opening a store here, you have fabrics and you design clothes, you know,
yes.
what's
Mm.
the wholesale price of your
Mm.
garment? I want to host it, you know, and have it in my store. You know,
Mm.
let's work out the shipping and da da da, like kind of stuff like that, you know, to
Mm.
happen. So with that said, it is a movement uh, of like bodies and minds, you know, coming together to network and work together to build a more prosperous future
Mm.
for African people.
I share. I share. That's very deep, so deep, and same concept that we're working on. The festival here that we're getting countries say just bring your manufacturers and wholesalers, um, um, and let's meet in the middle. Now we are matured, we've learned, we've made mistakes, where we buy, where we put our money. It's been 2 years or more, and we've been talking about that. So it's really going to be also a place for wholesalers coming directly from the continent and just bringing samples of the things that we can start now saying, I need a cultural, not just a culture that I speak, but a culture that when you come into my household, you could already see everything. The culture you see, the one you smell, the one you touch, the one you eat, the one you think and you breathe. Because we understand, I think that you touch a very important point, group economy. I also saw it how in ancient Africa, not saying it, learn it or saw it that my mothers did from what they inherited. And you could see anything that we're struggling to learn today, and like as if something was new. Nothing is just new. Everything they did it 1 million times. It's just like we're struggling to raise two children and they raise 15 children, you know, one mother with no child support, with nothing. And everything we struggle today saying is development, they had done it centuries before, and those are the steps that we begin to look at. If you look at how the group economy, they understood it. They understood what it meant, the economic of the collective. And I don't know if you studied that, but I grew to see it that, we had what we call Njangi or tontines, or, putting the monies together and then giving to one person at every time, or who had something to offer that the other didn't have. And so we're learning not just with our mouths and just talking, but we're learning now to start saying, from these times, even our festivals should be, what are we trading with one another, the intertrade? who is bringing what, who has the know-how in what. And so to being in Germany this year is really going to be that wholesale that we're calling on the manufacturers on the continent, because the Caribbeans are also asking us, in the Europe are asking that we start putting, now that we're getting the consciousness, now that Africans are beginning to understand themselves, let not only speak the words into their mouth, but let's accompany what we learn with what we touch, what we feel, what we eat, how we look. It should identify, when we say cultural identity, we have to carry some the identity part of us, you know, with us. Most of us didn't have it. We don't have access to it. Our children don't have it. And that's why we keep giving money out to Chinese and doing some of those things. No, now we are begin to call. The voice has been so loud. The connection has been so loud enough. And now it's time to start actually, like you said, you know, bringing it. So they're going to be bringing design. We're going to do exhibitions on fashion, you know, all the designs, the formal clothings, the handmade, and then all these industrial ones that we have. And just to open up the market, if it's in terms of jewelries, what is it that we don't have? Every beautiful thing we have, right? So yes, brother, you are so right when you touch that point to say, we could just begin from the simple things, trading with one another, or trade by barter. Now I'm coming to you to America. I want to see all what you people don't need. I take along with me. You know, let's
Indeed.
start going back to, like, yes, it was not like throw away. If we start even implementing how we came before getting into this fiat whatever, we used to just, what do you have that, or what do you need that I have? I give it to you. And instead of us just always buying new, throwing new. So I'm coming already with my empty box to see what is it that you people don't need again here, right? And that we begin to try. And that was also a very deep spirituality, for you to wear your grandmother's clothes or your auntie's something. It is so holy, like I cannot even say. So you have a piece of earring or a skirt that your grandmother or your grand auntie would give to you. That is so precious, more than anything. But if you look at the lifestyle, the way we're raising even our own children, even children don't share clothes. They
Yeah.
don't. It was not because of lack. I keep telling everybody, no, it was not because of lack. It was a privilege. It was an honor for you. And then we will say it's a chop chair thing, like it's a successor. That your grandmother will give you some ointment and you would keep it. You will not even want to even share with somebody. So that connection, that spirituality that we're talking about, most of us now cannot even wear our grandmother's things. We're like, oh, these are old fashioned, or children living in the same house cannot even share one. Oh, this one is mine, always is mine and mine. And we keep dividing and dividing in the name of civilization. So we have to start going back to those things. Let's try. It works. We just need to play our part.
Indeed. Indeed. Well,
Right.
even with the just one quick note, you know, it really tells you how much your grandmother trusts you. Like there's an underlying trust there, that if I
Yes.
give this to you, you will take care of it, you will cherish it, honor
Mhm.
it, you will treat it as if, you know, you would treat yourself as something that you. So, you know, I trust that you will cherish it and respect it. This is why I give it to you. So it's almost like a sign of, in many respects, respect, you know, for you and love. So we need to get back to that, and empowering and validating our children in that manner, you know.
That is so that's so deep. When I came to Germany and I saw a skirt that my grandmother gave to me, the same, in a very expensive shop out here. That's how I knew culture is not just what we see from the village. And she gave me that very skirt, and I saw it here after being a grown, mature, and I saw it. So that's how much we're just melting and keep thinking that somebody invented something. No, They stole everything, and we're still seeing the evidence today.
Indeed, indeed.
Wow. So thank you, brother. The community is so concentrated here, and I love the spirit here. I know we've missed each other, and I see it from your interactions and the comments. Also, we did not ignore you. Those that are watching from Facebook, we also to see you here, and those that are watching from YouTube and the other channels. I think, oh wow, you brought the whole family with you here, brother Answer. Yeah, and if you're joining us from his platform and you never knew about the Pan African Daily, this is the channel from Motherland Village Girls here, and people who just share a common thing. You know, we come from the continent, you come from the diaspora, and we just don't see any similarities. You know, sometimes when you tell me, oh, we come from North Carolina, like, no, I think Professor James is, or my parents was that. For me, it sounds like some poem. Because when I see you, I see someone I know in the village. And that's why it's not difficult for me, you know, to actually really like accept the fact that I really have to come and feel and see it and accept the reality that you people really were cut of us from us. Because when I see you, any one of us that I've seen, I have a face for each one that I've seen that I saw in the village, that I saw in the communities, that I saw everywhere that I went. And for me, it's still like, I come from not this and this. Like, no.
It's the same here, and I tell folks like, look, if you go on the continent, you're going to see your uncles, you're going to see your auntie, your cousin, your grandmother. They look and act just like you here, and you'll be amazed, once you start interacting uh, with each other, that you've been gone for a minute, but the essence is still there, the connection is still there. You just got to get reacquainted with one another, and this is the aim. But I appreciate greatly you having me on the platform, and I look forward to meeting you and to continue this conversation uh, until it's time for me to leave this earth, and to back it up with action, so to see how our conversations have grown and materialized on the continent and in the diaspora. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to having you on my platform soon. And so, indeed, until that time.
Thank you so very much, brother. Thank you. It's been also an honor. I mean, just already seeing you here. So you see when I'm going to meet you again. Oh, all right. I have a question in the chat here. If you have a YouTube channel as well, of course, that you didn't share that. Where would people be following you? Yes.
Yes, you could just type my name in on YouTube, and you'll find my channel. It should be the first thing that comes up. And I'm also on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on TikTok now, and you see me interact as well on Instagram. So I'm not on TikTok as much, but Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So Asar Imhotep, or Imhotep 06 or 1906. Either one of those you'll find.
You have your people greeting you there. Dumelan is saying hello from Mojaji village in South Africa.
Yes.
Watching you here, and I'll just put some comments out for people that have been here and sharing with you. Brother Paul Brown is saying, yes, I'm also here. Wow. Can just really let them. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. A lot, a lot, a lot. The whole family was here tonight. And if you happen to be here for the first time, you know what you have to do when we meet on these platforms. You want to get more information, share with us, and connect in the global big One Africa unity family that we are everywhere on the continent, on the planet. You do know Black people, we as creators everywhere, right? So it's not just the geographical space, but we are just connected here. So thank you so much, bro. We would see ourselves very soon.
Indeed, I
And
appreciate
yes, thank you, thank you. Yeah,
you.
so Synovia is here. Cheryl, Johnny Boy, Nathaniel, East, NS Parker, um, Johnny Boy, Lawrence Matteo, Donatien, Ebango, Voodoo God. Wow, I mean, all of them have been children of the sun. It's been a while. Hey, everything is everything. Oneness, the spirit of oneness. Leo, right? Uncle Leo is here. Voodoo gods. Okay, I said that. Ignatius, um, he said facts right on. Rapelwana. I hope I pronounce it well. Anyway, pardon my French. Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. NS Parker is saying the chains that bind us together are connecting. The chains that bind our minds are falling off. Very correct. So perfectly said, NS. This could not have been done again differently. Thank you. Free your mind and connect to one another. We love to Congosa people here in the Caribbean too, Dr. Tata. Because I said one time that we're the choo ones, the Congosa ones. Yes, Obiam, and you know the kind of Congosa we do. You know, they love Congosas. That's what we do. Thank you so much. And Isioma Ama, greetings to this beautiful family. We do greet you too, Isioma. You sound like you're watching from Nigeria, Ama, or from the continent, or in the diaspora anyway. Goddess Isis is here. When I heard this word first, ISIS, I heard it from the Boko Harams and this stuff. And then until I started looking, when I know, oh, that's one of our gods. I'm like, what? Okay. So all of us now are like everywhere or mutating and stuff like that. Thank you so much, Goddess. Marsha Lawrence, yeah, from where? From yes, from the Caribbean. Dominica, Dominica, not Republic. Yes. Thank you, all of you. Rob Shep, Detroit, African represent. All right. You see, the Detroiters are already like, we're the one hosting the world. Detroit, yes. I know. Our brother also called Imhotep. He's also in a Detroit, and he was sharing some very tragic incidents out there. This young guy from Congo that was shot in the head, in the back, and that story we're actually still following on it. But we're committing all of us, any transitions that we're going through. We do know that we don't die, and if our ancestors will allow something that we transit in, in this borrowed skin to leave this piece here and wear some other better piece somewhere, so be it. I share. So let the spirit go, and we will be joining all of us. Leave all this trash here, these borrowed ones, and take new ones. Yeah, so that's the way it is. Thank you so much, Shango. I saw you also were here. Johnny Johnson. We will tear USA up if Patrick Oyola, the Congolese, shot in the head by white racist police. This is what I was saying. Officer in Michigan, don't get justice. A traffic stop doesn't mean you'll have to kill an unarmed man. Yes. And actually, this happened. This happened in Michigan, from what I know, or Detroit. So, yeah, we're still following that
It's a
incident, but
Grand Rapids.
out there. Oh,
It's a place called Grand Rapids, Michigan. That's where the event happened.
okay. Wow, we saw Juven Yonka here saying greetings from Germany. Greetings, Juven. Greetings for being with us, Synovia. Queen. Always a queen. Queen without crowns. The normal queens. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you all enjoyed this conversation, and that, yes, it's all about all roads are leading to Detroit and Michigan next weekend. And we'll be seeing ourselves, one another. I hope you're making fufu. I don't know how to eat any other thing. It's just fufu and not fufu. Ugali. What in Kenya is called the ugali. Yeah, we're gonna break that one out there. Thank you so very much for coming. Thank you, brother.
Indeed.
Yeah. I think we'll be rounding up. I just want to make some. You might leave if you want to go. Do you want to go?
No, no,
Mhm.
I can go to.
Thank you, thank you. So just stay with us and listen to some updates that we have. I broke it out this evening that our, we were developing an app that, just like we're saying, we start creating our own platforms, and we have started this one that is comparatively what we call, African Zoom. It does the same. Features that we had, and it took us a while because Apple would not give us access to it, because there were features there like free video calls, particularly from the continent, and money transfers and things that connect us that were always disconnected us, that Africans have to labor a lot to do. And so Apple was really like, no, it's a competition in the market. So how can you just give something for free and stuff like that? But finally, the good news is we got it. So conferencing is now on Android and on Apple Store. So those of you, make sure you want to download it and start trying to host your meetings. Because like I said, one thing, we own the server. And so we can control the information on it. We can know how, we place what. You can also go live on stream on it. Even as a matter of fact, Pan African Daily is already having his studio there, just like on the AfroWorld TV. So that's one of the biggest news that I was so happy when we got that confirmation today. And I already was sharing the link for those of you, you want to host your conference. Unlimited classrooms are inside. You have the whiteboard, everything that you see competitors giving out there. So you have a free 1 month trial, and the other months would be like, after this free month, you can get subscription for €7, what others will give for €60. And this cost is just to maintain the platforms and to make sure that we are connected on our own spaces. Okay. So the news broke out today. I already shared it, and I sent it also. Oh, Alice was here. I'm so sorry. I didn't get your message earlier. Thank you so much. And so that's it. And then another information that I would like to share, because we are already getting to closing, and that I talked about the annual gathering in Germany this year, just like the one that we're going to Detroit, but this one is more of, a festival of African cultures that we used to do, but in another dimension. What we've been talking for 2 years during the pandemic, we want to put it down in the physical. How do we want the Africa that we want to see? What is it that we should be paying attention? Because just like before, we did normal festivals, like the brother was saying, in this kind of old fashion, what we call old fashion. Now we're going back to African civilization. So we'll be doing a lot of fashion exhibition, artifacts exhibition, the food types that are eaten, and how do we eat them with fingers, or where do the origins of certain things that we're seeing today, thinking that they were made here, or what is the model housing or immobilian, like you're calling those that want to invest in that. We have our natural earth, or soil, the red mud. This is how we lived. All these ecological houses that now today people say, oh, in the village, I grew up all in them. And we're all surrounded by nature. So you can imagine the things that strengthen us, where because we use every natural thing that we say, Mother Nature, Mother Africa, Mother of humanity, every element, nature, humans, water, air, what that we have. So, but the one big thing, we need representation. When we say representation, all the communities that we've been talking of should be represented here in Germany. I already told you people a lot of times why. I don't want to be repeating myself, because the language that we're talking here, and what we know it is. You know what I say. Sometimes now we go study talk country talk for this platform. What the talk country talk. So yes, we have to be represented. Delegations from all the communities where we are, because we have to meet and decide how we want it. Is talent, we're doing talent auditions. anything, song context for the Africa that we want, what is going to be our hymn now for the Africa that we want. We want to get artists to create, and this song is going to go in every category. If the theme of the song is the Africa we want, right? And then this song context is going to go in all the variations, whether you have to do it in a rap, in a reggae, in an Afrobeat, in a drumming, in a hip hop, in a jazz, in a rock. Everything came from us. So we want to go back and start really creating songs of freedom. Today we do, I don't know what to say. So we even don't even hear the message, what has been the meanings. We were more out of the spiritual and got into the physical, like what, how our body moves and things like whatever swag we would, but the message was not getting through. Some disconnection was there. So we need new brand artists with a new clear vision. So we're also going to have an open mic. We're going to remove some of those structures that we used to put that did not resemble us, that you came into it, you could not be able to make a difference. What kind of thing is this, right? But now when you go to, when you get to this village, you're going to feel I am African, because everything is just there that looks like you. So we need, yes, representatives from all delegates coming out from Mexico, West Papua, Brazil, Haiti, Jamaica, all Americans, all. We have to meet where the evil that was set against us to divide us decades ago, 1884, that we will never forget. But now we need to create a new story for our children to start dancing to. We should not leave our children with this colonial past of always saying, oh, they divided us in Berlin. Let us meet again in Germany and unite us. So that will be the new narrative of the new Africa, and our stories would be told by our children that are born here. Oh, we united, we met in Germany, and not we were divided in Germany. So it's the past. We're leaving the past behind, and we have to build the present and the future that we want to see. And it starts by us implementing these things. So they're also going to be a lot, we're calling on manufacturers, like we said, whether they are cultural goods. We have seen in recent times how Africa put money, just like they always do, but this time in Dubai. Have you seen that craziness? I don't have any problem with people going to Dubai and looking at tall buildings and putting up turbans and making pictures and riding camels. But what I just always ask is, were these camels not existing on the continent of Africa? Didn't we have rivers? What is it that is so exciting? We live from one colonial system to another one, just extending it, seeing what that you haven't seen, or you see once and then you make surface and post, and for what purpose? Oh, I have been here. No, please go back now. We have camels on the continent a lot. Go and ride them. We had even donkeys. When you see the stories in the Bibles, you think you thought, where do you think they came from? Where did you actually read in your history books his story, not even our own, that civilization started from where? So who's here to teach us civilization? When it started, when you created civilization, we can see the world, that's fine, but we can now start consuming our own. So they're going to be a lot, like we say, country representatives that are coming, tourists, attractions. If you've never heard it, you've never seen it. Now the diaspora is meeting the continental in Germany for the purpose that we know, but also to meet on trade together. So we're calling on them. They're coming with a lot of handmade goods, all jewelries, from jewelries to potteries to carvings to anything that we can create. We also from the diaspora want to bring our know-how to the people on the continent. And we know a lot of Black businesses out there, people that have invented, they've created in a small way. It has to be creativity, our talents, anything. You have a business you're doing, we want to get the businesses, because that's one of the topic that we're going to discuss in Detroit. How are we assessing, taking stock of who is doing what? We keep saying supporting Black business. We're not even connected to know which sister, which brother is selling what, so that we should know. So this is going to be a trading a platform, but also to just merge and put all the pieces that we're saying together. So we're saying continental meet the diaspora in the middle point where we were chopped apart. So we have to come back now for better and good things. You know the program is coming up. It's in August. A lot of people see saying it's far. No, it's not far. It's not really far. Okay, from the 4th to the 7th of August. Logistics are undergoing the planning, but you can already, those that, start to put yourself together, send your delegations and your representatives. Sorry, because we're going to start having this, like you heard Queen Ningode saying she's going to Ethiopia. We have to start sending representatives where our events are. So we meet and start tying that bond. So I want to thank you so very much. I drink my water and mind my African business this evening. So thank you for being with us, and we thank the brother and thank all of you. I see all of you in the chat. Amun Kuneteru, thank you for being here. Some of you are the ones that were really at the top, and we could not connect that. So pardon my French. I told you already, when we say pardon my French, those days means you said something that people didn't understand because of probably, like we say, our pronunciation of foreign languages. Okay, foreign languages, English, French, Portuguese, foreign languages. So we're not apologizing for anything we don't know. Okay, yes, so that is the way it is, and you all know I would be meeting the brothers, and I'll be bringing you a lot of good things. You know me, I'm just gonna see things the village way. I'm bringing and put the palaver, the story here live on the Pan-African Daily for my village people on the continent and those in the royals and in the communities and everywhere. We're gonna share the story from day one to day two. So even if you are not going to connect, like I said, just send your spirituality connection and we'll give you the feedback of how it went. Everything looks good so far from all you've done. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for continuing watching. Like I said, we have a promise, me and Baba James, to meet here tomorrow, but he was not really sure because of other events, and he would be confirming. If he confirms tomorrow that you're going to see us come live, so just wait for the notification or the press release. If you don't see us come live, then we're still with you doing the things that you sent us out to do. Sunday, I also was thinking that we might have Reverend Dr. Ninana. He had some very important things that he wanted to share with us, particularly in terms of the period that we're going back to the normal. Are we going to take all what we've learned, the empowerment, the spirit that have connected us? Are we just going to break back and go back into the normal? So he wanted us to stay awake, to say, even though we're going to be meeting, we're coming back into our normal daily chores, do not take that spirit back, the one that you left. So I think that conversation should take part on Sunday. If not, like I said, then it will take part next week. Anything that will not happen during this weekend, just know that it's not due to our planning, that something didn't add up. Okay. Apart from that, thank you so much. We love ourselves. Ubuntu 12.12. The pieces coming together, the code and the symbols are the drums. Like I said, even the traders that are coming, the manufacturers that are coming, we did send out the call out there on the continent for these 12.12 drums that we were about. And you already know, even before they come in August, we are drumming on May 25th, the Africa Day. And if it will not be possible for those that are already sending their commands for their drums, particularly the logistic and everything. But now the online platform is being created where you would have to choose the kind of drums or stuff. And those that will be in Germany this year, honestly, you just know that you're going to get your drums. You'll never find such prices anywhere because they're coming solely to supply to us, the diaspora, as we command. Okay. So I want to wish you a good night and stay safe where you are and your families. And we see ourselves tomorrow. And if not tomorrow, we're going to be seeing ourselves this week for sure. Okay, before we go. So thank you so much for being here. And to me, where are you? So we say good night. Asante sana. Tuko pamoja. Very war. Okay. Good night to all of us. Bye. You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tatah. The Africa we want. Unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherlands calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.